We'll call this Health Committee meeting to order at 1:01. And Counselor Warner, would you do the invocation?
Yes, ma'am. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for this time of fellowship, Lord. We just ask that you bless this group and bless the Cherokee Nation and all in our endeavors. Lord, just use us as a vessel to fill us with wisdom, kindness, civility, and patience. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Shelley, if you'll do the roll call.
Ma'am. Frankie Hargis.
Present.
Brian Warner.
Connie.
Bill England.
Here.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Jack Baker. Harley Buzzard.
Here.
Joe Bird.
Connie.
Sean Crittenden.
Connie.
Don Garvin.
Connie.
Wanda Hatfield. Rex Jordan.
Here.
Dick Lay. Curtis Snell.
Here.
Janice Taylor.
Here.
David Thornton. Victoria Vesquez.
Honey.
David Walkenstick. We do have a quorum.
Okay. Ask for approval of the minutes of March 14th.
So moved.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. And we'll go to reports. First off, we have Claremore. Is anybody here from Claremore? Don't see anyone. Oh, all right, Connie, that puts you up. Before we get started with Connie, Counselor Bird's going to make some introductions out there.
Yes, with us in our midst today we have a special guest, former chief of the Eastern Band, Chief Michelle Hicks. Back to let's give him a.
Okay, Connie, you're up.
Good afternoon. I'd like to mention a few highlights from our report. Cherokee Nation Hastings Hospital received an award of excellence, being an Oklahoma certified healthy business that joins several of our clinics who have also attained that designation. And of course, they also obtained their baby-friendly designation. I think I've mentioned that, but it was highlighted again this month. The emergency department and urgent care provided care to 6,820 patients in the month of February with a left without being seen rate of 7.3%, which is an increase from last month, as I had reported before. Surgical services performed 329 surgeries during the month of February. Dental services had a total of 7,207 visits for the month of February. Public health, 488 home visits. Jack Brown, in February, had 27 clients. In healthy living, we don't always do a good job. I don't do a good job of recognize all the efforts and things that they do. And so it was noteworthy, in my opinion, to try to make more of an effort to notice some of those things. And the public health educators conducted parent training to the early childhood unit, so that we're out there teaching our parents good habits and good parenting techniques. And they also delivered PE equipment to the Salina Elementary School for participating in our BMI project. Our community recreation center here in Tahlequah now has 11,107 members. That's a lot of members for that place. And in contract health, 8,613 referrals, and of those, 97.7% were approved. And in behavioral health, we saw 1,916 patients. I think something else that is worth mentioning at this point is there's a lot of publicity about the Medicaid butts with the state, and it is of great concern to anyone who needs those services. But so far, our rates have not been impacted. Now, the way we would be potentially impacted are any of the people that we refer to may choose not to accept Medicaid patients again, and so that burden may shift back on us in a different way. But we're monitoring that, and we discuss it weekly at our update meetings, and if anything comes up, we'll surely keep you guys apprised. I'm referring to the visit sheet here that you received in your report, and if you compare the visits that you see on the ambulatory care patient visit report, if you look at this year versus last year, it would look like we were down. But this report is different in that in about 3 pages back, we report our dental and pharmacy visits separately. So once you combine those visits, we're still, actually, I think our visit count is above this time last year, which is good news. We're continuing to make steady improvements on our third-party collections. I believe in the month of March, I got a report on Friday, or maybe early this morning, of 8.2 million, which puts us back more on track with what we were doing last year. And so we're anxious to recoup where we were moving a little bit slower in those efforts earlier in the year. Again, the top diagnosis continues to be hypertension and type 2 diabetes throughout the clinics. And you'll also see some sinusitis, which is par for the course this time of the year, creeping its way up. I have some follow-up items from a request from last month that I would like to ask Mr. Hayes. Is he here? Well, there he is. He forgot me last month. And a lot of the questions surrounded.
Oh,
is that what it was? We talked about several things in the contract health department that we wanted to improve. And one of those, I think, things that creates a lot of cause for you guys is the letter that you get, because the letter is a generic template that comes right out of the system. And most of the time it always says because of funding. And that's just something that's been in there forever, but it is not accurate. So we have worked for some time on a draft, and I would like to just pass this around, and it's a working draft for your review to know we are making efforts on changing that language. Most of the time, we need more medical information from either the patient or the doctor.
Right.
Right?
I would say in the majority are about inpatient things that are after the fact. Kind of the care has already taken place. Now we need to review it to see, things.
And so rather than just saying we're out of money, which is not even the case, we'll tell them in fact what we need and a contact person and number. And so those are the two things we need to shore up to finalize that letter. What else do we have here? Someone made notes, so let me just take a second. Counselor Taylor asked how long it usually takes for bills to be paid.
Well, there's a wide range there. When we're billed, I don't want to say accurately, but if the provider sends back our purchase order along with the relevant Medicare claim form, and if there's insurance, those explanation of benefits from, say, Medicare or Blue Cross or both, then it's a pretty quick, in contract health terms, 30 to 40 days. Because if we pay something submitted for payment today, we're going to have a check back from finance in about 7 days. Because we send things in once a week. Where things get off with vendors is when they bill us without our purchase order. So we basically get a document that has nothing to tie it to in our system. So it goes into what we call an orphan file, and it can be, there's a big pile of orphan claims that it creates and then some people will just rebill us the same 30 documents again, so we'll have multiple copies of the same document. So it's working with vendors to get them to talk our language really helps things out. So it just depends.
Okay, so my question was, and I think some of the other counselors have the same concern. These people that we talked to you about, and you know who they are, right, that will say, this took place last summer. I'm still getting bills. Some of them are December of 2014. Okay, so can you speak to this? Because you're familiar.
Right.
What is the majority of the thing that's going on, and what do we tell our citizens?
It kind of varies. It can be, sometimes I look into them and I look at it as a big success because Claremore's approved it and they've got purchase orders for it, but they're not paid. So, in my world, I'm going, yay, because they're paying for it. But then they've still got to get that paid for. They've got to get they fight the same struggle we fight with the St. John's and St. Francis. And so I think we're the only people that these hospitals now deal with paper on, typically. So it's different for them too. And each large hospital in Eastern Oklahoma has a part of their billing department that deals directly with Indian Health. So they have their Indian Health department. So they're used to that, and they've been working in it for a while. So it works. But there are, usually it's the things that hang up. It's a
Date of service.
diagnostic imaging account that we had a hospitalization that we paid. Say we made maybe anywhere from, for each referral, we're going to have one purchase order and payment to maybe 20 if it's an inpatient. So there might be a diagnostic imaging or an anesthesia or some little thing that hangs out that, and every one of those is a letter that's coming to somebody. So it's.
We're kind of at the mercy of how well the institution bills and how on top of that is they are.
Yeah, and we have our issues with internally that we have to address
Yes,
too.
yes.
But we do a lot of business with diagnostic imaging.
I hear that name all the time.
Yeah, and they're we work with them in our clinics, and occasionally we'll even get things that cross over. They're billing us for something that was done at say at Hastings, and that's when we look at it and say, okay, you need to, and it fixes it, but it's it's some kind of workaround. We got to touch that paper.
Okay, so basically, they're all individual. I mean, there's no blanket fix for all of it. I get that.
Right.
But there's nothing that we can direct our people to do to speed it up.
I always say just take it to your local clinic. I want to create that face-to-face,
Okay.
and that's the best case. Now, then they say, well, I took it there last month.
Yeah.
I mean, and I tell people often when I talk to somebody, I'll say, I said it this morning, if we get this fixed today, you may get another claim or another thing. If you get a second one, get back with me, but don't panic on the next one. So I've probably told some of you that.
Thank you, Frank.
I think that conversation cleared several of the same questions that were brought up. The reorg for the prevention staff I've signed it, and I believe we're waiting on one more signature and it will be completed.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that. I know their employees were feeling kind of left out or ignored or something, so.
It's a process to get that done and get it done correctly, and we've worked hard with HR and finance, and I think we've finally got it done, so.
Okay, so is Lisa meeting with them, or has she met with them?
No, until all the signatures are on it, the process doesn't allow us to communicate that, but
Okay.
as soon as it's done,
But Dr. Montgomery has,
Dr.
right?
Montgomery will be meeting with them.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for Connie? Counselor Garvin?
Connie, I read that letter, and I think that'll really help.
Well, good.
Will you start using it pretty soon, or?
We're going to try to. Give us 90 days, because, I mean, it seems like a simple task, but we have to change something in our whole process, even in changing a letter. We've got to find a phone, make sure there's someone that answers it, because it's pointless for people to call and then no one answer, and set up an email that all these inquiries go to, and figure out who's going to manage that and who will answer those when that person's gone.
Is there anything we can do to slow down these people that turn over to collections? Maybe the next day? It seems like they jumped the gun. I know that the collection agencies are eager to get started,
Oh, they are.
but
And a lot of
We need-
institutions pay somebody, it's a collection agency, but it's not a bad debt collection. I know, as a matter of fact, someone locally who outsources following up on their collections with a collection agency, but it's not like you're a bad debt collection. And so that really scares a lot of patients. It would scare me. So the sooner they can get that information to us for us to get it taken care of, the sooner we can take care of that.
yeah, that really floors them when they get that letter.
Oh, yeah.
Collection agency.
Oh, yeah.
Had good credit for 80 years, and now it's gonna,
We're going to do our part to make sure that doesn't happen.
Thank you. Thank you, Connie.
Counselor Buzzard?
Yes, the letter too, I thought it was good. And I think a lot of it is those medical records. People don't get the records. If they go to a doctor in Tulsa, they don't get the medical records. The other thing is what I advise the people that call me is to make copies of your referral. Have that in hand. Keep a copy of everything you submit. Make copies of them. So
Good
that has helped a lot of
recommendation.
people by making those copies. The open house at the J Clinic at Sam Hyder on April 1st went really well. I know it's a little bit cool, but I think in all, it really turned out well. And I want to thank you for all the input that you had there, Connie. The other thing is I want to give a kudos to Hastings Hospital. Most of you know I had some illness there, and I was treated really well at the hospital. I went in, they didn't know I was a tribal council member, and that's the way I wanted it. And I got in to see the doctors and saw 2 surgeons. Both surgeons come out really well. I was happy with the service that I received up there, so I'd recommend using Hastings.
I'm glad you're better.
Especially if you have the insurances, not only helps the Hastings Hospital, but it helps other people that doesn't have the insurance. So pass those on to the surgeons.
I sure will.
Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilman.
Counselor Warner?
Thank you. So in closing the loop with contract health, if they get a 2nd or 3rd letter, we need to have them go down and talk directly with contract health, say at Redbird, because I know, is there any way, a list to know how many, individuals? I know I get a lot of calls and they say my credit has been negatively affected by the fact that I was approved, but yet I still got sent in. Do we know how many? I can start compiling a list or anything over here, but is there some way that because that's the problem in anything that we do. If we don't close that loop, like I've got a lady today that just contacted me. She was approved. She's talked to Brett. He's talked to her, but she's still getting the letters. Is that part of the process? Because we're paying person A, B, C, and D, and they all haven't gotten paid, and then she's still getting letters. Will that negatively affect her credit later on?
It could. It would be up to that institution that we've contracted with.
Right.
And so, all of our agreements say they will not bill our patients.
Right.
But sometimes they slip through. So it's that referring, the facility in which we've referred, or that provider.
Well, and entering into these things through contract health, I know a lot of it's just educating. We're getting education today on how it's working, educating them, but the loop is so big.
It is.
And there's so many ways to tie it, and if you don't close that loop and let that patient know that that's how it's done, then, we're still continued on and on. So, but, thank you for the information today, because
You
I know
bet.
that'll be helpful to get
I hope
back.
so.
And I appreciate you in the recent efforts for recruitment, coming down. Dr. Montgomery, appreciate you guys. I want to say thank you to Brian Hill and the efforts for the collaboration down in Sequoia County. I appreciate you guys.
It's a great service for our patients.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Connie, I just wanted to voice a concern. I'm told that the intercom system at Mainkiller doesn't work in both the old part and the new part. Is that true?
That's the first I've heard of it. I'll check on that.
You might want to check on that, because they had a truck that was on fire in the parking lot on Friday, and one part was notified, the other part wasn't.
Oh, my.
And because of the mishandling of it, they had to have a fire drill later in the afternoon. But if you'd check into that, I'd appreciate it.
I sure will. I sure will.
Okay. Any other questions for Connie?
No, and I may add, that's a great letter, and like Councilor Buzzard stated, something maybe reminding the people to keep those copies. I think that is important. It
Yeah.
may be something that you could add to that. So, thank you.
Sure will.
Councilor Lay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The contract referral staff, I know you guys said go to your local clinic. And so sometimes people do that in the local clinic, at least up where we're at. The information from them to here sometimes is not collating somehow. And is there help in that area coming, or?
We just would have to know when that doesn't I'm not sure. Do you need more help at Cooey Scooey? Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't think so, but what I mean is the information itself sometimes isn't coming together from one group to from an outer clinic to Delaware.
We'll make sure we do everything to communicate everything to all clinics, and if there's an issue that we know about, we just have to know about
And
it.
this is one of the things that you all bought Cerner for, so all that stuff is gonna come together, is that,
It will. Yes, it will.
it will? It's not yet.
Not yet, not that part, no.
That's not what I wanted to hear. but-
Me either.
Councilor Anglin?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Connie, has the prescription, call-in prescription deal been fixed yet?
I don't know that I'll ever say that.
But we're still getting some calls about it.
And
I
I-
hadn't got to experience it because I renewed mine in person, but
We've got,
Jeff's not here, but.
a special assignment to Gordon Watkins. He's been a pharmacist in our health system for years. He's ran Wilma Mankiller, and he's been a big part of the implementation of the Cerner project. But we have tasked him with working out some of these specific customer service issues, for lack of better words to describe it. So he will be back. We will be following up with him. I think it's later this week or the following week with some of what he's done, and he's taken direction from us to improve those efforts.
Good, because I know there's got to be some patients that are probably really running out of medicines by now, since
Yep.
this has been ongoing for about a month.
Yes,
So,
sir.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I guess you're good.
Thank you.
They came in from Claremore, didn't they?
No, I think we
Right.
just get them, they have to.
Okay, we'll move on down. Old business, there's none pending, and new business, we have one resolution. Counselor Vasquez?
Yes. This is a resolution authorizing legal aid services of Oklahoma, Inc. to pursue AmeriCorps funding on behalf of Cherokee Nation to develop a medical legal partnership with Cherokee Nation. I move for its approval.
A second. Okay, is there anyone here that can speak to this?
Are you familiar with this?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And
Lots
what's your
of
name?
questions.
Excuse me, what's your name?
My name is Tanya Johnson, and I'm the Director of Grant Services for the nation.
Okay, you want to explain what this all is?
Sure. This is a pilot project that we are trying to enter into with legal aid. We've been trying to work out logistics for quite some time. They want to enter into a medical legal partnership with Cherokee Nation, and we've previously had long discussions about it, and we've asked them to potentially find ways to help pay to facilitate that partnership. And what they've done is they've found an AmeriCorps grant that pays 50% of an attorney's salary to help offset the cost of the partnership. They pay $25,000 per attorney from AmeriCorps, and then legal aid has to match $25,000 on top of that. The reason that they are asking for our permission to apply for the grant on our behalf is they have the wherewithal to match the attorney fees, whereas if we apply for it on our behalf, we have to come up with the match cost. We're initially looking at 4 attorneys, which would be $100,000 of cost that we would have to match cash. If they do it, they can match that out of their current salaries for those attorneys. The partnership would be an agreement to where the doctors who recognize issues where legal assistance might benefit patients, such as enrolling for disability, that doctor would refer that patient to the legal aid offices, and the legal aid attorneys would take over that assignment or that prescription, for lack of a better word, and help facilitate their application for disability, which would take that off of our doctors and our facilities. In a nutshell. I'll be happy to ask or answer any specific questions that you may have.
One thing I want to add before we go into questions is that these are attorneys that would not be staffed at the clinics. These are attorneys that are likely going to be housed in legal aid offices in various areas in the 14 counties. You know, as Tanya mentioned, it's a referral-based system, and so there would have to be some stress-related disorder or something tied to a disability type issue that the doctor would want to refer out. So I just want to make that statement too. And this is a pilot program for 1 year, and then we'll reevaluate if we want to do this again.
Okay. Counselor Buzzard?
Yes, legal aid is a really good program. We used to have it in Jay, and we had a lot of low-income people that used it. Now it's gone. I understand it with the telephone law, but still, if you had legal aid in your city, it was really worth the effort to have legal aid there. We had it there probably for 35 years, and I know most of the people that used it are low-income people, and that's what it's for. The other question I had is, did I hear you right that they're going to match the $100,000 match?
Yes, sir. They'll incur all of the fiscal responsibility for the grant.
Now, is this just for medical purposes only, or can it be used for? It's for medical. Yes. For medical.
It will require a referral from a doctor.
And that's good, because I know how difficult it is to get our doctors to write anything up as far as disabilities go. So I think it's a good deal to do. So, thanks.
Any other questions? Councilor Taylor?
I want to thank you, first of all, for the email you've been sending us on what's going on with grants. That is very informative, and I appreciate that. I'm sure some of the others do. They came to us with this idea, or how did it all start?
They initially approached Cherokee Nation 2 or 3 years ago, and after multiple conversations above my head, I was tasked with working on him to come up with a feasible way to create a potential partnership between legal aid and Cherokee Nation that would benefit our citizens, and that would reduce the cost burden on us to help pay for those attorneys. And there's a legal aid entity embedded in the Navajo Nation who currently does this grant, and CNCS, which I apologize, I can't remember what the acronym stands for at the moment, but they have taken on the task from AmeriCorps to make this more available for tribes specifically. So they have created a pool of funding for these types of partnerships, specifically as a pilot to try to get it out into more tribes other than just the Navajo Nation and then a few northern tribes. So this is their effort to push it out for availability for more tribes.
And I'm not sure who to address this to, Connie or Secretary. There is a real need for this. We're having many cases where our people are not getting the services that they need because they don't have an attorney to present them in.
Just from my experience on the council and then since Secretary of State, I do get a lot of calls from folks who are in need of that next step on the Social Security Disabilities Appeal, which is a large number of folks, and some folks who just can't afford an attorney are just not able to even begin to live a decent standard of living without that. So that is an impediment. There may be some others. This is an opportunity for, let me step forward, for the nation to access a resource that we could not access without legal aid, and that legal aid could not access without us. 1-year pilot project, very controlled, almost experimental, if you will, but we think we can make a difference in the lives of some of the patients. Now, the folks in the health staff may be able to speak directly to their direct experience with patients that come through, they can identify, but I can just tell you anecdotally, I sure have gotten calls over the years.
Okay, thank you.
So this is the first year.
And just to agree with what he just said, and I think many times we get a lot of questions or emails about these disability forms, and many times people who need these things completed are being sent by an attorney to get these completed, and get your doc to fill it out. But it's really not even a form that a doc needs to fill out, but the patient feels like that's what they've been told, so that's what they need. And these kinds of services will alleviate that. At least we, as the docs, will have someone to say, this is our special department that helps you with these, and send them right to it. So we would be very appreciative of the help.
And they will be legal aid attorneys. They're not, we'll have no say-so in who represents our people. It's kind of like a public defender type thing that will be assigned.
Correct.
And I'm assuming that the Attorney General has been all over this. He's looked at it and he's okay with it.
He's looked at it, and that there is an understanding that these are not going to be attorneys in our clinics, so as to not give any appearance that these are attorneys that have affiliation with the Office of the Attorney General. Because obviously the duties of the Office of the Attorney General are to represent the Cherokee Nation, not individual citizens. So he is very concerned about appearance, and I think that we may have made that divide accordingly.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Lay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so, how much will the nation be out per year?
Nothing. We would have been out $100,000 for 4 attorneys as match if we had pursued this opportunity as Cherokee Nation, but since they are applying on our behalf, they will assume that responsibility for the match.
And what, is there any downside? I mean, I don't know what, first of all, I hate to provide one more job for another lawyer. I guess everybody knows that by now. But if you're providing attorneys for someone, and I guess that's where we're not doing, because it goes through legal aid, is there a downside?
Well, we only see this as an upside, and
Well, you may, but I'm asking the question, where's the downside? There's got to be one. Anytime there's a action, there's a reaction someplace.
well, the good thing about this is we would have a year to evaluate it, and there's no obligation for us to renew after a year. Those are not our employees, and
It usually, when lawyers are involved, I find things just keep tumbling along, okay? And have you come before the council, any small groups of council, to advise us of this program before today?
no, sir.
Has anybody ever talked to us about it at all? So we just, today, we've got to make that decision. Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Crinton.
I was just going to ask, no cost to the Cherokee Nation? Okay. So like, yeah, Counselor Hargis and different ones have mentioned these people that want to bring their disability forms in for the busy doctors. And I definitely see there, because that paper kind of makes them liable, I understand. The disability paper makes the doctors liable. Is that right?
I don't. I'd probably defer to the health department to discuss that. But as far as the process for how it's going to work, we're going to work that out after we get the council's approval to move forward. Because
Well, somebody I trust kind of told me that, because that's why, you know, the doctors, it takes a lot of time. Plus, they could end up in court on disability suits if they do that paperwork, is what I was told. So this, potentially, no cost to the nation.
Can I give you a hypothetical?
Just say, so no cost to the
Sorry.
nation, no cost to the nation. And I can take this lady that's been calling me, take them to this legal aid for free, problem solved for a year, hypothetically.
Hypothetically, that patient would come to see a doctor, and a doctor would recognize that it's probably best that she be put on disability. He could write a referral to the legal aid attorney, and the legal aid attorney would take over that case and would help her follow through with the process from application to appeal to...
But there first has to be a form to the doctor.
The doctor would have to write a referral, like writing a prescription for Advil. He would have to write a referral to the legal aid attorney.
That's not the problem we've been running into, is it?
Somewhat, not.
It's similar, but what we've been running into is people just bringing their paperwork, wanting the doctors to fill it out. In this situation, they're referring them to an attorney, so.
But the doctor still would have to do the
Well,
referral to the...
I don't know. Connie, do you think that would be the case? Would our doctor still be responsible to fill out that paperwork if they refer them to these legal aid?
Disability is a very complicated issue. And first of all, most initial applications for disability go through permanent disability, go through the Social Security Administration. And that evaluation is free of charge to all people, tribal or not. I would only assume, and I need to look at this proposal, that the involvement of an attorney typically involves an appeal of that decision by the Social Security Administration, usually a decision unfavorable to the citizen. That is, they weren't allowed or given or granted or approved for disability. When an individual then appeals that decision, they often then require legal help. And that's, I suspect, how this arrangement should work. But the final determination of whether a person is disabled will involve input from a medical provider. So the attorney is, I think, assisting the tribal citizen in determining what is the next best step in their appeal process for disability. That's my simple understanding of how this would likely work.
Yes.
So there's still an element of this that's part of it, and that is the provider's involvement. And as you said, Councilor Pickett, it does, the provider who signs that form ultimately describing an individual's disability is, in essence, carries some degree of liability for that.
Thank you. The only person I've had call me about this, like, kept telling her to go to the VA. Well, her husband wasn't established there. I didn't really understand it. But the problem that I got just with the phone calls was, and I think there's a similar situation, she can't get her paper filled out by the doctor. And whether that's right or wrong, I mean, we've discussed that, but that's the only problem I've had in that category of things. So is this potentially help that?
I believe Ms. Odell has something she'd like to add.
No, this won't really change that. The fact that they happen to refer them to legal aid does not mean they then have a doctor that's necessarily signing on to this. All of this will be worked out in whatever paperwork, which has not been agreed to yet.
Right.
There's no agreement in place. We don't know what the absolute terms are or what they're going to do. This is our ability to then go into this discussion with them and see what we can work out. And if we decide we can't work this out, it's not going to work between the parties, we would step away from it. We don't know enough at this point without the grant to do the planning to figure out what the possibilities are to know. But no, this doesn't sign on any doctor
Right.
to do that paperwork.
We still have our getting through the doctor problem still, like we were discussing.
Councilor Byrd?
Yes, I have two comments to make. One is, you know, it looks like it would save us some money by using another entity to do this. We've been working on trying to help veterans, and attempting to fill out their disability paperwork, which is a process in itself. And I like the concept of this. That's my first comment. The second is this something we need to pass today? Is something that we need to look at a little bit more thoroughly and bring back? Because I sense we still have questions here amongst the committee.
The application is due at the end of this month, and it requires a resolution authorizing them to apply on our behalf. We can bring back an agreement. We can bring that back before the council for discussion before we move forward, if that is your, if that is your wish.
It still meet the timeline?
I'm sorry.
I mean, to answer your question, I mean, the answer is no. I mean, today is pretty much the deadline because this would have to move forward to tribal council tonight as far as the council resolution.
Okay. Which department of the Cherokee Nation will help coordinate this, if any?
So this is being coordinated. Tanya's leading from Grant Services, and she's working with health with the Attorney General's office just to make sure that, you know, all their concerns are vetted as far as administration.
Okay. So we passed the resolution, then you're going to go negotiate the agreement.
We will, yes. We will be involved in the entire process. They can't actually submit the application without our prior approval. Even though we're authorizing them to apply on our behalf, they can't then apply without our approval of that application.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really not that satisfied, but it looks like we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place if we're going to take advantage of this opportunity. Okay.
Councilor Vasquez?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that this is the same thing as we're wanting permission to apply for a grant. We're wanting to start the wheel rolling so that if we say yes to this tonight and council, then this gives you all the go-ahead to just pursue this and see what the agreement will be. Then you would come back to council, and again, we would have the opportunity to agree or not agree on implementation.
Well,
is that right?
I'm gonna let the secretary.
Well, I think as we do from time to time, as we get a sort of an agreement in principle and can summarize what this is going to look like, a little more detail, we'll come back to the committee and report that before. And I don't know, I apologize, I don't know what our deadline is to sign off on this agreement. Some form or fashion, we will get something back to the members of this committee outlining the specifics of what this will look like. But we can't start that process unless we get a resolution, which we need this evening. Would you like a little bit more time in the future to be able
Thank you.
to do due diligence?
Okay. Counselor Lay?
And I was going to actually ask a lot of questions, Chief, just to ask. And apparently it has to be, let me get this straight, pass this resolution in committee today, take it to council tonight, and then and only then do we see what the contract is?
That's correct. So that gives us our ability to then start working with legal aid, who's then going to apply.
Why didn't we start this last month?
Because, Mr. Lay, this grant opportunity just came forward. And
Well,
so that's the nature of grant
But
opportunities.
we're giving you the authority, you understand, we're giving
do.
you, or somebody, this young lady, I guess, the authority on a blank sheet of paper. And it's a good idea. I'm not saying it's not. My jokes about lawyers notwithstanding. It's a good idea, but I hate voting on a blank sheet of paper. And that's my dilemma today.
Yeah, the nature of, as Treasurer said, of some of these grant opportunities are that they come quicker than our committee cycle would normally accommodate. So we are asking for sort of an extension of confidence by the committee and the council this evening. You know, health has a strong track record. Certainly, the Treasurer and Grant Services has a very strong track record. We've had more success in grants in the last 4 or 5 years than we have a long time before that. So I think based on that record, there should be a level of confidence, knowing that we will come back with some more details as we get them through the process. But that is exactly what we're asking tonight, is sort of a vote of confidence on moving forward with this process.
I think the chairman of the health committee has a comment to make as well.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think this would be a good opportunity for our citizens as far as having the legal aid. And, you know, I'm going to be in favor of this, of moving it on to council tonight and passing this resolution. But in the future, when you have these grant opportunities, I think I prefer that you let us know, you know, as soon as you find out. Give us some detail. Don't wait till we get here in committee and, you know, we've got a deadline pressing on us of that very night. But give us some detail ahead of time of what all's involved, and, you know, just give us some detail that we can put more thought into it, maybe even research or ask our questions at that time. And so in the future, when you have a grant opportunity or you have a resolution, if you would come to me or email Gail and have her send it out to the council so that we know what's going on before we get here.
Certainly.
And Councilor Taylor?
I just have a comment. We're talking about this like this is a grant that we receive for our career services or something, where they're giving us the money to administer the program. My heartburn with this is we're giving another entity full control over something that we're attaching our name, our reputation to, and that concerns me.
And I think that's why for the period of time is so short. It's for a year, and they can't move forward without us executing an agreement. And so for a period of a year, we'll see if Legal Aid Services of Oklahoma is responsible enough to administer this in the interest of in our interest. Their track record suggests that they are. As Councilor Buzzard said, it was a blessing to have that in Jay, and I certainly referred my fair share of people in legal aid. So they do have a good track record, and for a period of a year, we'll determine if they are meeting our standards, and if they're not, we certainly go another direction.
You have a motion, second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. And Councilor Vasquez, do you want to add to that to move to full council tonight?
Please, yes.
Okay. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Interesting.
Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any announcements? We have, the next meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 16th at 1 o'clock. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're out.
You did good.